Hey, sis. Real treat today. You've heard my husband Caleb on here before, and so many of you asked to hear from him again. Today, he's joined by two of his friends for an unfiltered, faith filled conversation about making the first move in dating, communication and marriage, how long it takes a man to know if he wants to marry you, and why he hasn't asked you out yet. What you're about to hear is actually one of the Ask a Guy sessions from inside my program, Kingdom Bride Unlocked the course. Inside the course, there are 7 full conversations just like this one with Caleb and other godly men. The questions come from my clients, and they're the exact questions women like you are dying to ask. Today's episode is a special extended session, almost an hour, but I promise you'll want to hang on for every minute. I'm releasing this from my course because it's too good to keep behind a paywall, and I know it will bless you and help you on your journey to finding your handsome, godly husband. If you enjoy today's episode, just imagine what the other 6 conversations will unlock for you. The link to join Kingdom Bride Unlocks the course and hear my step-by-step frameworks, plus all 7 Ask a Guy sessions is in the show notes. Are you ready? Let's dive in. All right. We'll start with Dawson. Dawson, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dawson. I have been married to my wife, Anna, who is actually Caleb's sister, for 15 years now. And we've got 5 kids. I got married sort of late in life. Later, I was, I think, 27 or 28. And Anna and I met at college. She was living in a Christian, or in a on campus housing with a bunch of ladies, and I was living with a bunch of guys, and also on campus housing. And we met through a mutual friend, and I was intrigued by her and asked her out to coffee, and we got to know each other, and the Lord brought us together, and that was 16 or 17 years ago, and now we've got 5 awesome kids between the ages of 12 and almost 4. And I'm the IT director for a nonprofit here in Oregon and the Northwest. And that's sort of the short and sweet.
Yeah.
Dawes, later you're going to have to tell them about Dawson dates.
I'm happy to share about that.
All right. Thank you for that intro, Dawson. Well, then we'll go to Caleb.
Well, I think you guys might recognize me. I think I'm in a couple of Michelle's training videos, and I know she talks about me. But Michelle and I, if Dawson met later in life, Michelle and I met like really later in life. Shoot, I don't even know. Did we get married when we was 36, 37? Something like that. It was closer to 40 than anything else. And we met online, where I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this, where she had messaged me, and I was thinking she was in Michigan, I was in Oregon. I was thinking with the distance, probably isn't going to go anywhere, but doesn't hurt to talk to somebody, right? And then she started like using all her tricks on me, and chemistry was fizzing. And anyways, now we're together, and we have 2 little boys. They're twins. They're 2.5, and I just finished changing their diapers. And then we just have a newborn little girl who's at 3 months.
Thanks for that intro, Caleb. Yeah, we did meet online. So Dawson met in person at college, which isn't that like the dream, ladies, to just meet your husband in college? And then Caleb and I met online a lot later. Jason, how did you meet Rachel?
So I met my wife working at a summer camp. So we worked at Camp Tadmore here in Oregon. So we were on staff together for 2 summers, and we started dating. I think the second summer after we were on staff together for the second time. So yeah, we became real close friends. This I guess the January following our second summer together, and we just kind of kept talking pretty much every day, and we just built a really close friendship. And then I came in, I visited her a couple times while she was on staff, uh, and I was on an internship over the summer. So we were just hanging out and stuff like that, and then we just kept talking, and our relationship just kind of kept progressing, and eventually we uh, decided that we both kind of liked each other and wanted to give this thing a shot. So my wife is actually she's from Canada, so most of our relationship was long distance as well. So that was a little bit of a strain, but we made it through, and it was well worth it. And the visa process was also a little bit of a challenge, but we got through it, and we're very happy. And we've been together, or I guess we've been married now for 6.5 years.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Jason. So that's just like a good testimony that like friends first, like really works, right, Jason? All right. So
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
had a bunch of questions, but like you're here live on the call, so you can ask live questions too. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat.
Very
um,
nice.
her question is, when a woman has asked a guy for help and the guy says he will do it when he can, but forgets, what would you recommend a woman do? The goal is to get that tax done and both people feel respected. And I think I'm going to send this question to Dawson with the 5 kids because I'm sure he gets asked to do a lot of things.
Okay.
Uh, Unfortunately, I have plenty of experience with this exact situation. Um, I actually, in the last couple of years, realized I've self-diagnosed myself through memes, ADHD memes. I was like, wait a minute, are these not? That's just not something that everyone deals with. Um, and so I've realized I have some executive function disorder that I gotta that presents a challenge. Um, Generally, we are well intentioned, like we have good intentions, um, and we just forget. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. I'm not good at maintenance unless it's right in front of me. And some things are in front of me, and you just get used to them, and then you stop seeing them. So um, sometimes it takes a reminder, uh, and maybe a reminder, and like, well, when could that be done? Do we want to do it together? Do you need help? Do you need anything for it? Um, Sometimes it doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't feel like it needs to be done now. And so I'll do it later. And then later just keeps being later. So I think you can remind without nagging. And I think it's uh, making a plan is better than just, hey, I asked you to do that thing. Why didn't you do that thing? It's just like, hey, I'm not sure if you remembered. There's this thing that needs to be done. Maybe it's as simple as taking the garbage out. Other things, I have to set a reminder on my phone. I have to put things on the calendar. It's in my calendar that every Wednesday night, oh yeah, the garbage has to go down to the street. And I have like 3 different things that will remind me from my phone that has to happen that night.
Yeah. So don't be afraid of reminders, I think is what you're saying, Dawson.
Yeah. And if it's the kind of thing that it's over and over and it seems like, man, it's just doesn't matter how many times I remind him, he never remembers. Maybe men generally are solution oriented. We don't care about how we feel about forgetting necessarily. So if you have a solution, it's like, well, do you want to put a reminder in your phone? Right? Offer solutions, help us make a plan. And sometimes we want to do things with other people.
I want to throw something in here just because I lived with Anna and Dawson, and I will give props to my sister. She is fantastic at the gracious reminder. Like when she asks you to do something or she's reminding you, she doesn't make it feel like you have failed me. Right? Like, and I think that's another thing because um if you ask a guy to do something and it goes on to his list, right? He's aware of it and it's there. But he's not putting the priority on it that you would like to see. Like he's got other things on his list ahead of this thing that you want him to do. So if you keep coming back and like reminding him about that thing or like when are you going to do it? Like that where it can come into nagging territory, and that doesn't feel good, right? Because that's like I'm aware of this thing. Like the fact that you keep bringing it up means that you don't have any trust in me. Like it's like a like but if you want it higher on the priority list, it's good to say things like, well, like let him know that it's bothering you, right? Like I'm having trouble concentrating because this hasn't been done yet, or like this is, it's like physically painful that like whenever I see that this hasn't been done yet. Could you move it higher on the priority list? Is a lot like more understandable than like why isn't it done yet?
Mhm. I just want to throw into that you can have a conversation and ask him like what's on the list ahead of this, so you can be honest in that way. Dawson, did you have something you wanted to say?
Sometimes we don't have a context for the urgency,
Mhm.
right? We're like, oh yeah, it's a thing that needs to be done. But if you say, actually, remember, we've got company coming over on this day and we can't do it the day before. And so actually I need it done tomorrow. Or, it's like, oh yeah, now all the dots are connected. I see why it's urgent for you and why it now needs to be urgent for me.
Yeah. Yeah. You can always be honest. I have a question I want to pass to Jason because I think it would be kind of interesting in your story because you were friends with Rachel before you started dating. So I'm going to ask you this question that we just got in the chat. How long does it take a guy to know if he wants to marry a woman? I was told men know relatively quickly. So I guess like what she's also saying is, did you know pretty quickly that you wanted to marry Rachel?
No, it was definitely not quick for us. So I mean, we had known each other for about 2 years before we, got to the point where we were, talking every day just as friends. And so we started talking every day. Coming out of my previous relationship, my first girlfriend broke up with me, and then that's kind of when my wife she checked in on me just as a friend, and then we just kind of never stopped talking after that. So for us, it was probably I want to say at least a year and a half, probably, until you know there was any kind of idea of a dating relationship. Just because a I'd gotten out of another relationship, I wasn't looking for another one, and then also we had spent this significant amount of time building up a very strong friendship, which personally, I'm not a super outgoing person. I don't, make friends quickly and easily. So, there was actually, a couple months period where I was actually suppressing, like I would have these little thoughts that like pop into my head, like, oh, like maybe you could consider dating her or something like that. I actually spent a couple months just kind of suppressing that and be like, no, like don't ruin this awesome friendship that you have. And so then, um, so yeah, it was probably about a year and a half before we, actually kind of moved into the, hey, we actually, like each other, and there is something more here than just, a good friendship. Um, and so it definitely wasn't instantaneous.
When you started dating, how long was it before you asked her to marry?
We were dating for about a year before I proposed. So yeah, and there's definitely um, there were definitely some times like through that, through our dating relationship where, it was quite difficult, just because of the circumstances. So we started dating in May. And then, when she came down to work at camp for her last year, and she just had a very difficult, time at camp with her team that year. She was leading a team. And so it was, definitely not the best, time for her to be, starting a relationship. So that was definitely hard on us, but that was, one of the nice things, we had been, building a really strong friendship ahead of that. So, if we had just, started dating, instantly, and we didn't have that, strong basis of friendship, we definitely would not have made it.
Yeah.
Because we did not have an easy dating relationship by any means.
Yeah. I'm going to toss this question to Caleb because I think he might have something interesting to say about how our relationship works. Like, just thank you for that, Jason. Like, that was really good. I want to kind of give a like different perspective too. So it's not always instantaneous. Caleb, what would you say?
Yeah, I agree with that. So what's whenever you're starting a new relationship, you have this like mental picture of the person you're looking for, right? Like this is like what the ideal is. And you've got this new person that you're starting the relationship with, and you know a little bit about it, and hopefully some of those things match up. And as you begin to color in like who this real person is, you start to see where they match or don't match with what the ideal is. And you have to reach the point where you're either like, okay, I'm going to accept these differences and going to be okay with them, or no, these are deal breakers. For Michelle and I, right off the bat, like I said, lots of chemistry. And it wasn't until like the first visit where I actually flew out to Michigan and got to know her in person a bit, where I had the thought I could marry this girl.
Okay, when was that? Like, how long had you known me when you had the thought I could marry this girl?
Oh, don't make me pick dates. What? I don't know. How long was it before I went to Michigan?
So
3
we
months?
started talking in June,
Okay.
and then he came to visit me in August.
See, she's got all the dates.
And he was like,
Yeah,
I
about
could
3
marry
months.
this girl, but keep going,
And
keep going.
it wasn't on the very first day though, right? Like we were like there
It was
for
like the second day.
3 days, and it was the third day. Like I had the thought, like I could marry this girl. And then we had I went back to Oregon. We have this long distance dating relationship, and I had some hangups, some things I had to get over, things that like I thought that were important to me that I came to realize through my relationship with Michelle weren't important. And other things that she brought to the table that I hadn't considered before that actually, yeah, like those were really important. And then, but Michelle, I will say Michelle was ready before I was. Like she was like, I want to get married. And we were always talking like with that like in mind, like that's where this could lead. And I was like, well, I felt strongly like we had to live at least in the same time zone for a little bit before I was ready to commit to marriage. And she for herself, like, so in the beginning, it was like, well, I could come out to Michigan or you could come here to Oregon. And then when I went to visit her, I was like, Michigan is a pit. I do not want to live here. And she
Fortunately, no one on this call is from Michigan, I think.
she didn't have none of her family was in Michigan. She did have a condo, and she had a job that she hated, and she had recently left her church family and she hadn't gotten a new one yet. So there were a lot of things like Oregon's where all of my roots are, that were kind of pushing her to come out here. But she also she was taking all the risk, right? Like I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to move for a guy that won't propose, right? Like, so, she was, and we had a conversation about how she wanted a ring before she came out here. And
How I'm going to ask you this question.
okay,
How committed to pursuing marriage were you at that point? Like how committed were you to prove like I'm probably going to marry Michelle? Where were you at that time?
right. So at that point, it was like, if like everything's pretty good, right? Like we had a couple difficulties tied to the distance relationship, tied to Michelle's illness. I'm sure she's talked about that with you guys. And uh, uh, and those had resolved themselves. And so her coming out was, it was just, it's just kind of like the next stop in the progression towards the
Yeah.
destination. And, like until you say I do, there's always, it's,
Yeah.
there's an option to pull the emergency brake, right? But I didn't, there wasn't anything that like ever was leading me towards that. So, and I'm glad we did it the way that we did. I think that it showed discernment and wisdom. And I think Michelle would maybe agree with me.
So, Emina, just to help you out, like it was about 3 months before we started kind of like in our mind, like maybe we could marry each other. And then it was another year and I decided to move to Oregon. And like you hear Caleb saying, like even then he was still thinking, still praying, still wondering, still asking questions, still wanting to know more. So, in answer to your question, I was told men know relatively quickly. I would say that's not true for every man. And the other thing is, quickly is really relative. So some people would say a year and a half is quick, actually, right? So I hope that if you have any like add-on questions, I'm gonna go ahead and put. Do men seek out help in this area? Is that what you're asking? Okay. She says, do they know how it seems that men are less likely than women to seek out a Christian dating coach or a matchmaker? Like, why is it that men don't ask for help? Like, oh, we gotta ask Dawson this question. Like, Dawson, like, I feel like all three of you are probably gonna have to chime in on this question.
I knowing Dawson, I don't think he needed help. I think he came out of the crib ready to date.
I think it very much depends. I don't think that men are typically thinking, they're not proactive about like, oh, I should ask someone for help around this. Now, if they have people in their life that they respect that are leaders. So I have an amazing relationship with my dad. He's been a spiritual leader in my life, and so he's always been someone I can talk to about this kind of thing, and I have. And if he's got some really solid, good friends around him who talk about these things, which I know is rare, but I also was gifted with that, then I think we're more likely to talk with the people that we already know. But don't think, yeah, I can't imagine trying to start a business like Michelle has, but the target audience is men looking for dating coach. We're like, oh no, I don't know. I'll figure it.
I'm gonna say when I started my coaching business, there was a coach on Instagram. Her name is Melanie. She's got about 20,000 followers. I think she's got about 20,000 followers. So there are men out there who have dating coaches. Like, I don't
she
know.
coaches
Like,
men.
she teaches men. Yeah, she coaches men. She has 20,000. It looks like all male followers. So it exists. Like, Jason, would you ever have signed up with a dating coach?
Personally, like I'm very much more comfortable with, people like I know, kind of like Dawson was saying. So, I did, seek out advice like from my brother, who's, very similar to me. And so like we share, a lot of the same line of thinking. And so, he's always been, a good role model for me. And, um, I was able to, kind of talk through, some of my, dating questions and things like that. And like, hey, like, do you, am I ready for marriage, kind of thing. And so for me, just because I'm not, go out there and, meet somebody new and pour out my heart to them, it's probably not my go-to, but also, it does come back to the, kind of guy mentality of, we don't need help. We can do it on our own kind of thing, even though we can't, but we like to think so.
I think that might be it. That guys have a different mentality that they can do things on their own. Is that true, Caleb?
Uh, I don't actually know, but I think so. First of all, just to contrast Dawson, like my dad never gave me any advice about women at all. I think maybe he said once, "Don't just marry the first girl who sticks her tongue down your throat." I like, but like nothing. Um, and I didn't even realize, dating coaches was a thing until I saw the movie Hitch, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of guys out there. Um, I probably needed one though. Like I got my heart broken a few times when it was probably completely avoidable, and I now that those experiences shaped me and started me on the path to becoming the guy that was able to get together with Michelle. Like it's kind of funny. You look at Michelle and I talk about how, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. We met late in life and we each had like a hard journey to reach the point where we came together. And when you look at that path, it's like, I don't see how it could have gone any other way. Like the fact that like we have these things that we kind of maybe regret or wish could have been otherwise, but if they had been otherwise, we would have missed each other. So, so in that sense, we're grateful for those difficult experiences. So I definitely, I feel like I would have I could have used help with my online dating profile. I could have used help with how I was talking and texting and phone calling in relationships, and they probably would have gone a lot smoother. I probably wouldn't have paid for it though. I'm pretty cheap, so I would have been like, maybe if there was like a dating for dummies book or something that I could have used that.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's some hot, like popcorn questions that we're going to answer pretty quickly. Can we judge how much a guy is interested in us based on how he pursues us?
That for anyone?
I'm going to let whoever feels like they can answer this best, but I'm just going to elaborate just a little bit unless you want to elaborate on some more on this question. We often tell ourselves as women that if a guy doesn't pursue us, he's not interested. So that's what this question is. Can we judge if he's interested by how he pursues us? If that's what we're telling ourselves. Who wants to answer that real quick?
I think a lot of guys are actually insecure or we're afraid to, well, maybe you've got a friend like Jason said, we don't want to ruin a good friendship by, saying, hey, I've got a crush on you. I'm interested in you, and you want to go on a date. And it's like, oh, can't be friends with that guy. And I was definitely cautious about doing that with Anna. She was a lot younger. She was, I think, a sophomore in college at the time. And I was a non-traditional student. I was a little older. And I was afraid, am I misreading this girl's? She might just be really friendly. She might be friendly to everyone, but most girls aren't that friendly to me. And so I had to check in with the roommate. I was like, hey, if I asked Anna to coffee, would she be okay with that? Do you think? Like, is that, you know, too forward? So like, no, that I think she'd be interested in that. So, um, but I think a lot of us guys think that, man, I'm just going to have to trick some really nice girl into thinking that I'm worthy of her affection and love, and that I'm a worthy companion. Like, we just don't trust that, the kind of woman that we want to marry is going to be interested in us. So I think we need more than a little hint to know that, like, hey, I like spending time with you. Like, oh, wow. Oh, well, didn't see that coming. Um, but knowing that you are interested in spending time with us, if we're interested in spending time with you, we probably will pursue that.
So
If
here's a question, like just the next question she has. I'm gonna I want you to finish it, Dawson. Finish your answering this. If he doesn't make a move after knowing us for a while, should we assume he's not interested?
so, ideally, I think the man makes the first move. But if he's not making the move, I think we should have the maturity to be able to just say, well, I had a girl ask me once, I need to know what this relationship is. I need to know where we're headed. Is this just a friendship, or are you interested in me? Um, so hopefully you've got the guts to say that if it needs to be said. Um, it might be the question that he needs to be like, oh, I gotta I got to be serious about this. I can't
So is
just.
the answer no? If he doesn't make a move, does that mean he's not interested? Is the answer no? That doesn't mean that.
If you give him an opportunity, if you ask him to clarify what he's interested in and he doesn't say that he's interested in a romantic relationship, I think that's a pretty good sign that he's not interested.
I'll
That's
But the question is if he doesn't make a move. I'm pretty sure that this isn't like me telling you I like you. This is just we're just friends and I like you. You haven't made a move, meaning you haven't asked me on a date. Does that mean you're not interested?
I think
Even
it
before that conversation happened.
I think it depends on the guy. I was very I knew what I wanted and I was very okay with low low level dates, low expectation dates. Hey, let's just go get coffee. We'll get to know each other and we'll see how that goes. Rather than, a lot of in the Christian world, especially, the college Christian world, it's like, hey, I've seen you at Bible study before and we've never talked, but I think God told me that you're going to be my wife. We don't want to have that conversation. So it's like, how do we have
I think what you're saying, Dawson, is if you're interested in someone, I think this is what you're saying. If we as women are interested in someone and they're not making a move, maybe the next step for us is to have a clarifying conversation.
or
That's pretty
or
bold.
or I mean, if let them, like there, Michelle, I know you teach an entire unit on how to let a guy know that you're interested in him. There's lots of things. So sometimes a guy's like, sorry, I'm taking over this question. I if a guy is putting into energy into a relationship with you, it's a safe bet that he's interested, even if it's a very good friendship. Like, and maybe those are the exceptions rather than the rule. But generally, I have found, like, if he is putting energy in, like, oh, he's getting you gifts, oh, he's coming up with fun events for the two of you. Like, guys will accept friendship from women pretty easily. It's when they're putting energy in, then it's more like, oh, okay, maybe this is he's is actually interested. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is that there are times though where there's a girl out there, the guy's aware of her, guy may even be attracted to her, might even think, but doesn't want to come off as a creep. Thinks like she's maybe out of his league. She thinks that she doesn't know that she's interested. And if he knew that she was interested, then he might be willing to get on board. But
otherwise he's risking rejection.
Yeah.
Jason, you nodded your head because you were friends with Rachel for like over a year before you made a move, and now you're married to her. So did you want to weigh in on this?
Well, so Rachel actually made the first move in our relationship because, as I kind of mentioned before, when those thoughts, just started popping in my head, like, hey, this, is a possibility. I was, just shoving those down because for me personally, I'm not a, put myself out there kind of person. So, like Dawson said, I am, risk averse, and so, that was kind of where, at that point, that was kind of where I was content of being is, hey, we've got a good friendship and I'm never going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And then, about, I don't know, a couple months, after I kind of started having those thoughts, we spent a couple days together. She was down for Christmas to visit her family. And then like the couple days, like after she went back up to Canada, she had been talking with her girlfriends, and like one of them told them was like, hey, like you guys are acting like more than just friends. Like you need to, figure out what's going on. So she like called me right before I was going into a lab at school, and she was like, okay, you can't say anything. I'm going to say this. And like, she was just like lightning speed, like, hey, I like you. Like, well, like, and, then she was like, okay, bye. So she made the first move, and I mean that was very comforting for me because I was not intending to make any sort of move, even though I was I would have been interested in that point, but yeah. So and then even in my first dating relationship, I did make the first move in that one, but I was very confident that she was interested in me by that point because there's probably a good 3 to 4 month period at that point where I was kind of like talking to her friends or picking up hints from other people that were on staff at camp because she was also worked out on staff at camp with us, and everybody was hinting at it and be like, hey, when you going to date her? Like not quite that obvious, but pretty much. And so I mean that's kind of what it took for me to make the first move. So, but I mean, that's just, how I am as a person. I'm, very reserved. I don't put myself out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay because we have 3 guys on this call and they all like indicated that just because a guy likes you doesn't mean he's going to act right away, right? Can I get thumbs up on that from all of you guys? Just because he likes you doesn't mean he's going to act right away.
with the corollary, if he is acting, he does like you.
I think if he's interested, he's probably looking for clues. The problem is we're generally clueless. We don't pick up on hints very well. So I'm always in favor of, like, this is just me. Rather than play games, communicate clearly.
Yeah. I hear a lot of women say that they want to be in their feminine and they don't want to use masculine energy and they want to let the guy initiate and all of those things. And you can do all of those things. You can let the guy lead. You can let the guy be the masculine one. You can be the feminine one and get your guy. You can still get your guy. And like, I like to say that like this is a union. Like you guys are working together, And so like let's help each other, for the us. And that's what Rachel did. And um so that's good. Thank you guys. I'm gonna ask Caleb this question and feel free to like say like definitely guys like tell it like it is. We want to hear what you have to say. Okay, so let me ask this question. If a guy always dates the same type physically, would he be less attracted to a girl who looks different from his type? Well, let Caleb answer that question.
So that's kind of funny because Michelle was not like my quote unquote type that I had been traditionally interested in when we started talking. I mean, I think she's gorgeous, so she had that in her favor. But the uh she she heavier than I had typically gone for. I was usually more interested in I had never I had gone on one date with one black girl before. Um and it had really not gone well. And the uh and I you know I wasn't like opposed ideologically. I just hadn't found many black girls that I was attracted to. Now, I was attracted to Michelle. And so when when it's the right person, um, then then sparks will fly. I will say it's very rare, not impossible, but it's very rare when you meet someone and you're like not attracted to them, and then like over time then you become attracted to them. Like it can happen if you're having an occasion to see like their like personality shine through and kind of overcome. I mean, sorry, another soapbox here. Eventually everyone just looks like themselves, right? Like you might meet someone and they're like, oh, they're beautiful, like that beautiful girl. And then you start to get to know them and you're like, oh, wow, she is really a terrible person. And I am now not attracted to her at all. Right. Or, oh, she is a nice person. And now I'm attracted to her as Michelle. Right. Like as opposed to uh, just that anonymous, beautiful person. So like the physical attraction piece comes first. It's hard to override it. If it's not there though.
Yeah. I have here, how can we let a guy know we are interested in him without being too forward? And I'm gonna say, like, I'm gonna teach you that. Like, I'm gonna teach you the feminine wiles without being too forward. But so I'm just gonna say that. But Jason, do you have any comments about what feels too forward to you? Like, have you ever experienced a woman who was just too forward and it turned you off? Did you ever experience that?
Um, I don't. I wouldn't say I'd experienced that. I mean, as I mentioned, when my wife called me and told me that she was, interested in me, that was about as forward as you get. But if I weren't, if I wasn't kind of, interested in the back of my mind at that point, then I might have been like, okay, this is, kind of weird. But there was, signals going both ways that, you know, we were at a stage in our friendship that we were like, yeah, this is, you know, we value this as potentially more than a friendship. So, I think in that case, it wasn't, necessarily too forward, even though that, it was about as, out there as, you can get.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson that she literally told you, I like you. And really, that you're absolutely right. That is really pretty forward. And you didn't think that, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. All right. There's a question in the chat. What are some red flags women should be aware of in Christian men? And I put that to Dawson because sometimes Dawson and I talk about this. But Dawson has daughters, and I think one of them's 12 and stuff like that. So Dawson probably thought about this and like, what are the red flags that you probably are already encouraging your daughters about, maybe?
Shoot, do I have to start talking to them about boys already? um,
Piper, maybe not Reagan.
I think. I mean, there's the handful that like come to immediately to mind. Integrity in all things, right? Does he have integrity, or is he willing to lie about something? How does he treat his mom? How does he treat uh, other people just in general? Um, do his roommates like being roommates with him? Which is that goes both ways, right? Like if you're, for I'd give guys the same, same advice. Like, is she always changing roommates? Is he always changing roommates, or does he have some people who like living with him long term? Um, and then the other piece is like for sexual purity, like, is he willing to set a boundary and maintain that boundary, or does he lack control over himself in that area? And so if he can't set that boundary and keep it in the small things early on with you, that's a red flag that's an area of his life that's not under control.
What about alcohol? Do you have any thoughts about how he handles alcohol?
So I work in addiction recovery. I'm the IT director for an addiction recovery program. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'd say I think at one point that 40% of the men in our church at a men's retreat were in recovery of some kind or another. So there's a lot of substance abuse, and yeah, I would immediately be wary of someone who ever gets drunk. I don't think there's any place for that. Granted, I'm a fairly strong Christian, and I believe that we should obey the teachings of Christ, not just memorize them. So I have some strong feelings about that. So I would say you should set your standards high and don't compromise on those things. Um,
And
and-
and I would say make sure you set the right standards. Like
right.
it can't just be like, oh, he shares my hobbies. Like, and I'm holding to that high standard. Like, make sure you are really looking for the things that really determine his relationship with the Lord, because that's going to determine really his relationship with you. So that's, I mean, everything that Dawson just said was more along the lines of what's his relationship with the Lord.
Another thing my mom mentioned, the thing that initially really attracted her to my dad was she could imagine him being a great dad, being a great father. So if you can't imagine him being a great father, that's a red flag.
Yeah. Jean Marie is saying, do you want to raise children who grow up to be just like him? Yeah. So important. I'm gonna ask this question and then we're gonna have to wrap it up. But we can popcorn this question to all three of the guys. What is the main thing you looked for in your future wife? I have 60 seconds to answer. Let's start with Caleb.
Well, I wanted to be known. I wanted someone who would see me and see every part of me and accept those parts, because I felt like I had a hard time making close friends. I had a hard time, and she had to be someone who was on my level, which Michelle definitely is in terms of like this is going to sound arrogant. I needed someone who was smart. So so I was looking for someone beautiful who would accept me and who was smart, and Michelle's all three.
Dawson?
I went around this. Well, okay, so shared values is a big one. So family values, really values her relationship with the Lord more than her relationship with me. But the first thing that attracted me to Anna, besides, oh, she's really cute, was she was driving a big blue 12-passenger van for this social. Like, what kind of college girl drives a big, family rig? And I was like, well, she probably has a family. She's not a spoiled rich girl whose daddy bought her a sports car, right? Like, there's a few things that was like, that could be. And as I started to ask questions, all those, the really shared family values were a big one. So that was like, okay, what am I looking for in in a woman. But also a big part of my story was I was in college ministry. I knew dozens of beautiful women who loved the Lord, who were involved, like, they ticked lots of those boxes, and I was interested in several of them. But the I had a conversation with the Lord on the way back from a mission trip, and going on a mission trip with other young single people is like, oh, look at that. We're praying together. Like, they're amazing. So I was talking to the Lord about this girl, Karen, who is amazing. I was like, Lord, what about her? And I felt like the Lord asked me some questions that really changed my perspective. One was, do you believe that I've made a woman for you, or you just have to like try your best and, get lucky or not lucky? And I thought, no, God is sovereign. He's created the person for me. Well, then are you ever going to meet her? Well, yeah. Do you think she'll like you for who you are? Or are you going to have to trick her into falling in love with you? Okay. And I felt like I came out of that conversation with the Lord with a lack of freedom. He was like, don't try to make something happen on your own. You need to wait for me. And that was a big one. And so I think really the life verse around that was, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you, including a spouse. And so we're just looking at Genesis right now. We're going through Genesis, and Jacob was a schemer, right? He's always scheming, trying to get his own thing. But really, when God changed his name, right, and he was ruled by God, Israel, that was a big shift. And instead of scheming, God just gave him the things he needed.
Mic drop.
That's my soapbox.
Jason, what was the main thing that you were looking for in your future wife?
So for me, like in my first relationship, my girlfriend was very similar to me. So, very reserved. And, at that point, I was like, oh, hey, like she's like me. She understands that part of me. Therefore this works. But one thing I didn't really realize until, after that relationship ended was, having two people, so far, in the, kind of reserved and, subdued kind of, on that side of the spectrum was, not a healthy relationship for us. And so, coming out of that, I was like, okay, I don't need somebody who's, the exact opposite of me. But I do need somebody, who is at least on the other side of, that spectrum, who is, more outgoing. And, I don't, expect Rachel to, ask all the questions in our relationship. I don't expect her to, be the only one putting in effort. I need to put in the effort and, get to know her and pursue her as well. But I was like, okay, I need somebody who is more outgoing. And so, most of the time, when we, meet friends at church or, whatever, it's because, she is basically, as far as you can get on, the opposite side of the spectrum. She's the one that you always hear in church. And so, I meet, most of our friends, through her. So that was one thing. So that was the main thing I was looking for is somebody who is not like me, but somebody that complemented me. We were both very strong individuals in our certain areas, but we have spots in our life where we do have shortcomings and places that we just are not confident. But we were able to, complement each other. So in spots where, she's less confident, I can take up some of the slack, and also I can encourage her in that and be like, no, you are actually good at this. You just, you don't think you are. And then she can do the same for me. And so, we are, very different in many, many ways, but, as, our relationship has, grown, we've, been together longer, I've been able to see that, this is, God did design us that way. There were times when we were dating where I was like, I was talking to God, I was like, God, are you sure? Like, this seems crazy. Like this, I don't see how, this, works and plays out. But, he just gave me a very, a deep sense of peace and was like, nope, this is, what I have for you. And, as we kind of, grew, like Dawson was saying, we did have these shared values. And then, we could kind of see, okay, you're good in this area, I'm good over here. And, together we do make a very good team. So, yeah, just somebody that, can be, your teammate, is
Yeah.
the main thing that I was looking for.
Awesome.
I think
you,
Michelle
Jason.
has some material about complementary. I mean, when she has you gals do your personality analysis, she has some material about like complementary personalities.
Yeah. I'm going to say that like every time we do these Ask a Guy calls, like it seems to me that when you get married, like your wife or who you get married to is the exact person for you. And it's going to be that they are what you always wanted and maybe ever never even you to ask for. So that's something like I hear a lot, um, and when guys answer this question. So thank you guys so much. I'm just gonna have Caleb, if you can just pray for the ladies and close us out.
Sure. I'll bow our heads and close our eyes. Dear Lord, we want to thank you and praise you for the time that we've had together. We've been able to share some of our experiences with each other. Hopefully, build some excitement and anticipation for the future that you have in store for each of us. Thank you that there are other believers out there who share our worldview that can offer perspective on things that we haven't experienced for ourselves yet. So, thank you again, and in your name we pray. Amen.
All right, Dawson, Caleb, Jason, thank you so much. This was really, really awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed like bearing your souls in front of us because we really appreciate you guys. Hey, sis, wasn't that incredible? I love when Caleb and his friends share so honestly. It gives you such a window into how men think about love, pursuit, and marriage. And sis, remember, this was just one conversation. Inside Kingdom Bride Unlocked the course, there are 7 Ask a Guy sessions waiting for you, plus my step-by-step proven coaching material and techniques to help you apply these insights to your own dating life and call in your handsome, godly husband. So go to the link in the show notes, get inside Kingdom Bride Unlocked to the course and hear the rest of the conversations. Do not wait because every month you delay is another month single. Let's get you married, sis.